And they are back. The one, the two, first, I guess we're the first string, but we're always in the dirty pocket. Welcome in, folks. Here we are. I am Stacy Bauman, and I am joined by my partner in crime, the scout, Mr. Daniel Kelly. How are you, my friend? I'm tongue-tied.
That's okay. That's okay. It's you're the least of our problems. We got stirred in the NFL these days, so that's
it is. It's getting wild. There's some things happening right now. There's a few
really
things
is.
happening.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah. Before we get started, look, we want to address. It's been hit and miss lately on the Dirty Pocket. Life happens, and that's the way it goes on this little show that we're launching off the ground here. So thanks for all those that are tuning in or may stay around or may see this or may watch. Thanks again.
Yes.
But before we get started, what are we drinking? I just got to tell you, I'm hydrating on water. That's all I got.
You got to get more adventurous, Stacey.
I got to keep it.
Okay, hold on. Let's. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Did
that's something.
Okay, here we go. A little something new for us tonight. What do you think of this?
Oh, a yellow Pepsi Peeps? Pepsi and Peeps? I don't even know what that is.
Well, what? Peeps, the marshmallow candies
God.
For Easter. The Peeps that I love. It's a marshmallow flavored Pepsi. Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty wild. It's a special edition here for springtime. And the red matches my hat. There we go. And so let me try to do this here, okay?
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see. If you're the New York Jets and your situation is even more wild than these Peeps, reach for a Pepsi Peeps. Available in stores everywhere. This message furnished by the National Football League.
You go. Still on his game. Myself and my Peeps, Scout Kelly.
I love Peeps. I love Peeps. Peeps are the best bedtime snack. They're laced in sugar and marshmallow. If I could have a whole package of them every night before bed, that's the way to go. I sleep like a baby when I have a package full of Peeps before night.
I just want to say there's nothing healthy about that beverage or the Peeps.
There's nothing healthy about what's going on with the Jets either. But
let's just jump in. Nice segue, Scout.
Thank you.
The New York Jets. So first and foremost, NFL free agency has kicked off on this Tuesday. It is going straight bonkers, and maybe we're gonna have time to cover maybe a couple of these top stories. The first one is those New York Jets, and one of your favorite players that you love to talk about, not named Trey Lance, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, a guy that I really like. You're not so much so. What do you make of this? Is this for real? Is Joe Douglas just not the GM anymore? We got to unpack Aaron Rodgers in the event he's a Jet in the next few hours.
Well, here's the situation. I'm starting to understand better and better why I didn't get the big job publishing the Jets website for SI. Starting to get a real stance on it because the articles I'd be turning out right now would be viral would be an understatement. Okay. It would be an understatement of the day because I think this is the most bizarre situation I have seen in 40 years of being around the game. And believe me, I have Twitter. I'm armed with that. And I've been sending out tweets talking about my thought process behind this. But really and truly, like a tweet I sent out tonight, and let me read this for our listeners. I don't know how many there are of you, but let's see here. Where's my tweet for tonight? Okay, here we go. The list of demands, and I quote myself, Aaron Rodgers has given to the Jets poses the greatest threat to the structure of the NFL we've seen. If they let him do this, rest assured, star players will start doing this everywhere, and the NFL GM position will be obsolete. The league needs to step in. That's how I feel about this.
It's starting to feel a little bit like the NBA and LeBron James. And these guys, they just recruit their buddies. They build super teams. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, has everyone forgotten that Aaron Rodgers is nearly 40 years old?
I think so. And not only that, but you alluded to something very important there, Stacey. You said, the NBA, they recruit their buddies and they have an all-star team. This is not what's on the list here with ESPN, what they put out tonight, okay? Let me kind of read this for everybody. This is straight from ESPN, and I quote, the article starts with, if quarterback Aaron Rodgers lands with the Jets in a trade, he would like to be surrounded with some of his BFFs. Is this reality TV or the NFL? Okay. The article goes on to say he supplied the Jets with a wish list of free agents he would like to pursue. Okay, now turn up the volume a little bit on this one. Okay, we got OBJ. Okay, his name is on the list. Okay, and of course, Jets representatives were at that big workout he had. I think about 12 teams showed up in Arizona for his big workout. Alan Lazard. Okay, Randall Cobb, who is 32 years old, and then the player he speaks most highly about is about his age, 38-year-old tight end Mercedes Lewis. And I quote, this is Aaron Rodgers being quoted. This is a guy I want to finish my career with. If I'm playing, that's the guy I want next to me. Okay. Now, reportedly in this article, the Jets have come to terms with Alan Lazard on a 4-year, $44 million contract in this article, which, keep in mind, the Jets really don't have a whole lot of cap space to begin with, okay? They were $14 million over the cap at the time of when this came out. So where they're coming up with the money, I don't know. And the whole idea, of course, is centered around, kind of like a class reunion, bringing everybody together under one big umbrella, the Big Apple. The ringleader being Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator of the Jets. And also, too, he mentions possibly bringing in guys like, you want to go to war with, like tight end Bobby Tunyon. And the face says it all. I mean, sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words.
I got to poof.
And then David Bakari, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who's a really good left tackle, I might add.
He's a very good offensive lineman.
Yeah, he really is. He's legit, okay?
Bakari, I believe.
Yeah, he's the most legit player on the entire list, far and away. Okay, now, so he wants, he said we'll kind of see how it goes. Supposedly he's going to have a decision. He's holding two teams ransom, kind of, the Packers. I mean, this was bizarre. Listen, in 2021, I came out with an article in NFL Draft Diamonds. I would have cut this guy after he walked off the field in the NFC Championship game. And let me say this for the record, okay? Hey, there we go. There we go, Clickster. Hey, what's up? Let me say this for the record, okay? Is that the only thing that's happened since I said I would cut Aaron Rodgers in that article is his behavior's become more extreme and more bizarre in a very methodical process here. I mean, it was bad enough that, he basically, kind of undermined the whole, franchise when he walked off the field that day. Of course, couldn't beat a warm weather team at home. And then, of course, he comes back with those reports that he's, trying to dissuade free agents from signing in Green Bay. And then it gets even more bizarre. Then we start finding out he's taking these what do you call it? The thing that he smokes or whatever he does.
Are you talking about the ayahuasca?
There you go. There you go. Yeah,
okay.
we got that going. We got some scenes of him at some waterfalls and some place, hanging out. And then he comes back from that excursion and he takes the Packers podium and turns it into a soap opera, into a infomercial, if you will, and a crusade, second guessing everything that management's done and who they've cut and who they shouldn't have and what they should have done, and really playing armchair quarterback at its worst. Okay, I mean armchair GM, at its worst. And so and then it gets more bizarre. And of course, this last year wasn't too good. But hey, folks, he saved the best for last. Now he basically is trying to become like a pseudo, however you want to say it, GM in New York, where he's like, okay, guys, if you want to bring me in, I got a laundry list, a bunch of guys here that I want to have my BFFs around me. And here's the most strangest part of the story nobody's talking about. Now, ESPN finally picked up on the story after I've been writing about it for a year and a half on SI Jets, okay, is the crisis, okay? Let me say it again so we all can hear it. The crisis okay, the Jets have on the offensive line with the situation they have. Okay, they have. If you look at the 8 offensive linemen the Jets have under contract, Aaron Rodgers won't make it through the 3rd week of the season. Okay, we got guys like Mekhi Becton. I know this by heart because I've written about it for a year and a half. Mekhi Becton hasn't played in 2 years, can't control his weight, and all he does is stay injured and would rather have a hamburger than work out. Okay. Then we got,
Ouch.
oh yeah, absolutely. and I could become a little bit more extreme on that even because he had documented weight problems in Louisville that general manager Joe Douglas just threw caution to the wind with before he even drafted him. So he knew all about Becton's weight issues before he even drafted him. Still brought him in as his legacy pick. He's been nothing but a bust ever since. Now, in the other right tackle, we got Max Mitchell, who has a blood clot issue, very serious. Not even sure he's going to play again. It's so serious. We got Dwayne Brown, who's just about as old as Aaron Rodgers at left tackle, about 38, 39 years old. Okay. Then on top of that, we have Laken Tomlinson, who's been a major bust at left guard. Everybody thinks even the Jets media doesn't like him. The Jets don't have a center on their roster. Okay. Not one, not a backup, not a reserve, not one, okay? They don't have a center. And then at right guard, they have Elijah Vera Tucker, who's their best offensive lineman. They have 0 depth, okay? If anybody gets hurt, let me tell you who's filling in. Drew Samia, okay? Eric Smith, and Chris Glasser. I don't know about anybody in the NFL, but I can't see one quarterback, even in the XFL, wanting to play behind those 3. Or the USFL. They have no offensive line. So what Aaron Rodgers, this is the most bewildering part of this to me. So Aaron Rodgers wants to go sign all. Let's keep in mind, the Jets wide receiver situation is probably one of the strengths of their team before all this started, right? And now they want to bring in, they already have rookie of the year, Garrett Wilson. They already have Elijah Moore. Okay. They already have, Denzel Mims in the background and all these guys. Okay. Corey Davis. Okay. And now he wants to bring in 1, 2, 3 more receivers and possibly 2 more tight ends. Now, keep in mind, last offseason, Joe Douglas dropped a Brinks truck worth of cash on the tight end position. Okay, last year, okay, and now and they spent like $40 million bringing a couple tight ends in last year. The Conklin guy from Minnesota, and then the guy from the Bengals they brought in. Okay, then he drafted another tight end. Okay, and Jeremy Ruckert in I believe in the 3rd round. So they got 3 new tight ends last year. Aaron Rodgers wants to bring in at least a couple more. He wants to take the Jets receivers room that already has 3-4 quality receivers and add 3-4 of his friends. Who is going to block for him? This is going to become a tragedy in New York if he's allowed to do this. And then, of course, who's in the background? Who's the second fiddle? Zach Wilson. This is going to be a circus.
Who, by the way, idolized Rodgers growing up. He idolized Aaron Rodgers.
This is where the story starts getting very, very unhealthy. Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is all what the makings is. I can't even understand this for the life of me. I can't understand why the Jets. Not only that, but when you trade draft picks for a player like Aaron Rodgers, if you're going to trade tomorrow's future, you have to get guys who are going to be on the field. This guy may not even show up at the start of training camp, as eccentric and erratic as he is, let alone play a year. Who knows what they have? He's almost 40 years old. This is unbelievable. Like I said again, if the league allows this to happen, trust you and me, this is a league of trends. We see it all the time. One guy gets paid a certain amount of money, they all want that money. This is a league of trends. If this is allowed to happen, this will become a way of life in the National Football League.
I got to tell you, down deep right now, my gut tells me this is not going to happen. I think it's absurd. The wide receiver room there is among the strongest, although there's reports that Mims and Elijah Moore might be shown the door if Aaron brings his aging rapidly wide receiver core. I guess Alan Lazard is still young. But Randall Cobb comes and he wants Odell Beckham Jr. Please take him. I'm so glad he didn't come back to the Rams.
This is strange.
It's a very strange situation. And look, in my mind and in my heart right now, the only thing I can think of is that the only place Aaron Rodgers belongs where he can win immediately, and I mean immediately, is for your favorite guy, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, to get on the phone, bring in Rodgers on a 1-year rental while Brock Purdy heals that elbow. We all know Trey Lance is gone. I don't ever see him playing for the 49ers again. If he does, he's a backup. Get Aaron Rodgers in there with that defense, with that running game, with that offensive line, although the Niners did just lose McGlinchey it escapes me right now. It's a whirlwind. Even if he goes to the Jets, behind, like you mentioned a million times, that offensive line, even the defense, Sauce Gardner's good. They're still not a Super Bowl contender in the AFC East.
No.
The Dolphins are getting explosive. The Bills still are explosive. Then you got to get through the Bengals. You got to find your way through
Patriots are there too.
The Patriots are a tough defense. You've got the world champion Kansas City Chiefs, the Bengals. Justin Herbert and the Chargers, that they can build around him. Why is Aaron Rodgers considering this? Honestly, his agent should be hammering the phone to get to San Francisco and stay in the NFC with a team that has an incredible defense. It's got the running game. It's got good coaching. This is bonker. If this is this the Nathaniel Hackett thing that didn't happen in Denver, which is what got Hackett fired because he ended up with Russell Wilson instead of Rodgers a year ago? I got to tell you, Scout, this is one of the weirdest stories. And again, by the time this little podcast airs, he's going on Pat McAfee tomorrow, and he's going to start talking. It's already scheduled. It's all over the news. So tomorrow we're going to find out. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm playing for the San Francisco 49ers, or I'm retiring. There is no way.
Point, Stacey. Yeah, you make good points like this. You know.
Where else can he go? He wants to pull the Tom Brady routine, right? I want to go. He's looking around. He goes, Tampa Bay. They got a defense. They got the receivers. They got the coach. He's looking for that. The New York Jets with Robert Saleh and that offensive line. What am I missing here? There's no way.
Well, you're not smoking what he's smoking. That's what you're missing.
Apparently,
I mean, it's really super bizarre. And everything you said was beautiful. It was poetry, Stacey, because that's really what he should be doing. And here's my guess. Okay, my best guess. I've tweeted this out. It hasn't happened yet. Okay, and I always like saying things before they happen. Aaron Rodgers is not going to play for the New York Jets. This to me is I think he's trying to use the Jets as leverage to see what he because every deal happens. You need to have some kind of leverage for a deal to happen, right? And I think that he's going to use them as leverage, or as you say, Stacey, he's just trying to get all his buddies on a team, and then he's going to pull the plug on his career, and he's going to retire, and he's going to say, okay, thanks, guys, and all his buddies are going to have jobs. Yeah, because nobody will sign OBJ. Nobody's signing the rest of some of these other guys, and he's trying to get his buddies jobs and stuff, and he's doing it for Nathaniel Hackett as a favor or something. That's the only thing I can think of, because think about this, okay? What sane person, okay, wants to play behind that offensive line I just mentioned? I mean, outside of Elijah Vera Tucker, he's the only one that's actually is somebody. He's
a good player.
Yeah, you could say he's a good player. Okay, the going rate for a starting center in the NFL, I mean, they're going to be looking at some real money to sign a center is the most important position probably on the entire offensive line next to left tackle. They make all the calls. You can't just bring in somebody's off the street to do that with. I mean,
I'll tell you this. Yeah. To your point, I think the interesting part here is they've got a fairly solid set of NFL draft picks. They got number 13 overall, number 43, number 74, 112, 145, 185. Okay, they got they're down the alley. But you need to tell me they're gonna plug and play at least 2 or 3 rookies?
And Rodgers wants that?
To your point, yeah.
Especially at the tackle position, where his entire
Dwayne Brown says he's coming back. Dwayne Brown.
It's so that's what Rodgers wants to play behind. He wants to play behind a collection of rookies,
I don't see it.
and I don't either. And then he wants to entrust his health and his future to rookies that maybe they remember the line call, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
It's a trial and error type of thing. And that's what he wants as his offensive line. I can't believe that for a second. I mean,
Makes no sense to me.
and I've said even before this Rodgers thing unfolded, I've said for SI Jets that they need to draft offensive linemen in every single pick this year, because what Joe Douglas has done is he has absolutely neglected the offensive line on the Jets. What do I mean? He's only drafted 4 offensive linemen in 3 years. Joe Douglas hates the draft offensive linemen for whatever reason. Okay.
Sounds like the Rams. Makes me crazy.
Yeah, and now, so he's got all these skill position players. Now, the thing that doesn't make sense is Joe Douglas comes from a background of very solid in sound scouting. With the Ravens and the Eagles. So that's where he was. That's where he came up in those organizations. So they didn't teach him that the offensive line is what makes the rest of the team go around.
Yeah.
And all he does is he signs these journeyman offensive linemen as backups. They've played literally for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 teams. And listen, if you got offensive tackles in your roster that played at 8 teams, they can't play. Okay. But he brings all these journeymen in, and it's just a train wreck. He is absolutely neglected. It's almost like he's intentionally set the Jets up to fail. I mean, because he gets all these star players and stuff, but then he neglects the fact that he can't block for him. And then he goes and gets his quarterback that he really likes, and Zach Wilson, supposedly, but he doesn't build the offensive line for him either. It's all backwards. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, I agree.
Jets. I don't. This is not how Bill Parcells ran his team when I was there. I can assure everybody of that. This is not the way that anybody I've ever worked with it would build a football team. And from Belichick's tree or any of those guys, none of those coaches, Eric Mangini, nobody builds a team like this with just a bunch of pieces on the outside and neglects the offensive line. Nobody does this. And then keeps trying to plug in these quarterbacks that can't be protected. Listen, the Jets have given up the 4th. Everyone says, well, Joe Douglas will build an offensive line, right? Well, no, because since 2019, since Joe Douglas was hired, the Jets have given up 190 sacks, according to statmuse.com, which is the 4th highest amount of sacks in the National Football League. He doesn't have a clue how to build an offensive line. So he's not going to start this year, and it's going to be just a train wreck.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's very NBA-esque. This is what has made the NBA unwatchable, and this just reeks of. They get there, he gets 2 or 3 of his buddies, including OBJ. They get there, he gets hurt. The Jets tank to 4, and how is it? And no one's even addressing the defense. Like, the defense has Sauce Gardner, and it's got some pieces, but the defense needs help.
Absolutely.
And the Jets aren't ready. There is like one option for Aaron Rodgers. I would have my agent be calling the 49ers. If they said not interested, I'd say me neither. It's time to retire. There's nowhere else for him to go. I mean, he wants to come to the Rams. I'd take him on a 1-year deal. Sure. But where else is he going to go where he's going to get into the playoffs next year? The AFC, to me, is just the wrong answer. He'd be better off going to the Commanders. He'd be better off going somewhere where he can get into the playoffs by winning the division. And I got to tell you, the Jets, this is dumpster fire status. And I like Aaron Rodgers. You don't. I like him, but I feel like he needs to go to the right situation, and the New York Jets ain't it.
Well, Tampa would be a lot better situation for him, too. I mean,
I thought about that as well. No, it would be better. It'd be better because he'd be up against Derek Carr and the Saints. He'd be up against, some of these teams that don't. The NFC's at its weakest, which tells me that Aaron isn't thinking this through, because this is what Tom Brady made a living doing in New England. He stayed in the AFC East when everybody in the division stunk, and he rode that all the way to the playoffs every year and won quite a few Super Bowls, more than anyone else. But Rodgers is thinking the New York Jets. For all the reasons you've been saying for months, I agree. But the strategy here from him after sitting in that dark room for 4 days or whatever makes no sense to me. I am going to call it now. I will not be surprised if there's some surprise team nobody knows about. It's got to be the 49ers in my head, especially with news that Purdy's out maybe till middle of the season. They just signed Sam Darnold. What? And Trey Lance is going to go down as one of the most epic draft mistakes in world history. If you want to make everybody forget Kyle Shanahan, you're calling Aaron Rodgers to come in on a 1-year rental. If that's not announced tomorrow, I'm calling it now. I will not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers walks away.
That's a good point. I got one dark horse team.
Okay.
That I've tweeted about, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
I can see him fitting there. Kenny Pickett's clearly not going to lead them anywhere, especially not that division. They those quarterbacks they got in that division are going to run all over them with Kenny Pickett. They don't have a chance. They're third or fourth.
He's got to stay in the AFC if he wants to go to the Super Bowl.
Right, the NFC, right, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got to get into the NFC somewhere.
I'm saying it's one of those, like that'd be my dark horse team. But outside that, I agree. Or maybe he takes a year off and revisits the thing next year and goes, But I mean, at that point, he's already 40, 41.
Yeah.
It's just, see, the problem is that what Aaron Rodgers has forgotten is you mentioned earlier that Tom Brady used to kind of pick and choose his spots and kind of, okay, hey, Aaron, you aren't Tom Brady. You haven't accomplished anything near what Tom Brady has accomplished. Rings.
I know the rings answer, but I'm sorry. Head to toe, top to bottom, right situation, Aaron Rodgers would smoke Tom Brady in any situation. He just didn't have the situation Brady had. I'm not taking away from Brady, but talent-wise, you and I disagree on that. Rodgers is light years.
Here's the thing: is from a leadership standpoint, Tom Brady is light years ahead of Rodgers.
Okay. That's a valid point.
Rodgers is so selfish that he couldn't lead prisoners on a jailbreak.
I think he's mercurial. I like Aaron Rodgers, but I know what you're saying, and that's an interesting
leadership. So I mean, Brady tries to get everyone together. Aaron Rodgers just tries to get. When you're publicly trying to undermine the Packers management. You see, and that's what gets me too. Why would Joe Douglas even want this nightmare? I mean, if you're a GM, who wants this? To have a guy who's up at the podium every week, second guessing everything you're doing, calling you out. Look at the GM in Green Bay. He's run him ragged over there. Right. Why would anybody want that situation? And then have Zach Wilson's drama involved and the mother of Zach Wilson.
Joe Douglas has those picks in the top 50 picks. He's got 2. You really want a quarterback? There's a few quarterbacks. I'm not in love with them as much as maybe you are on first round mock or some of the others. But package those picks, go up and get a young guy, dump Zach Wilson on somebody else. There's options. Renting Aaron Rodgers for 1 year to get killed by week 4 and the defense isn't ready. Jets, I don't see it, Jets fans. We're up against the clock. Scout, I got to ask you a couple of things. Was there a tear shed when Taylor Heineke decided to move to Atlanta quickly?
Well, I put out a tweet today that last count had 48,700 views during the day and was retweeted about 68 times about my thoughts, feelings, thoughts, and sentiments. The biggest mistake this organization has made in years. Taylor Heineke, to me, had the most heart and soul of any player on Washington's team since John Riggins. I love Taylor Heineke. I've said it publicly many times. This is a huge mistake. Taylor Heineke was not to blame. Management just simply couldn't put a team around him, couldn't build a team of champions. The record speaks for itself. This is a huge mistake. Listen, Sam Howell's not it, like they say on social media. Sam Howell's Rex Grossman 2.0. Sam Howell's like watching paint dry. I put a 5th round grade on him coming out of North Carolina. That's not the answer. And so, I was very disappointed to see. But they've been trying to run out Taylor Heineke ever since he had that miracle playoff game where he almost beat Brady in Tampa Bay. They've never gravitated towards him. Rivera's tried to replace him with Fitzpatrick. Rivera tried to replace him with Carson Wentz. Rivera's finally replaced him. But this is a disaster in Washington.
I'm calling it now. The Washington Commanders. Well, we don't have enough time to unpack it, but they're gonna go up and they're gonna get Anthony Richardson, Florida. That's going to be where he lands. Mark my words, and I know it makes you want to cry. Quickly, as we close out the Dirty Pocket on a rapid-fire show, give me 20 seconds. That's all the time we have. Lamar Jackson turns down 3 years, $133 million. Is Lamar Jackson okay? Because let's be straight. It's clear nobody wants him. I'm going to be the bad guy in the room. He's an incredibly talented player. I think he's a good kid. He's not going to win a Super Bowl, and especially not in the AFC. So what he is trying to get money-wise is a head-scratcher for me, even though he damn well deserves it. He's been an excellent player.
Well, it's interesting. Supposedly, there's allegations of collusion going on that nobody wants to sign him to an offer sheet. But of course, they'll let Rodgers do all this stuff, but they won't step in on.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Lamar Jackson, I still think that Washington would be a great landing spot for him. And Washington's been losing fans for 20 years to the Ravens. This will be a great way to pull back some of the fan base. This will be a major accomplishment for them, the land of Lamar Jackson, and he would certainly be better than Sam Howell or anything they got in the roster right now.
Okay, there you have it, folks. We tried to tackle one or two. Aaron Rodgers dominating the headlines tonight. Thanks for joining us here on the Dirty Pocket. Clicks, great to see you.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The Pocket has been erratic the last few months, and that's on us, but life happens. It's heating up as we get close to the NFL draft. Folks, follow the scout at firstroundmock.com, where he is unpacking this draft, and it is deep. You can find me at gridironicon.com when I'm not in the pocket with this guy. For all those that may see this, thanks for joining us. Aaron Rodgers, spotlight's on you tomorrow. We will see you all next week.
As the Rodgers turns.